Hello, welcome to another Ujuzi Africa lecture. Today we're going to be talking about the solar system. Now, what is the solar system? The solar system consists of the Sun, its planetary system of 8 planets, their moons, and other non-stellar objects. Now, the Sun is the star at the center of the solar system. That's pretty much what it is. It is spherical in shape and it is made up of hot plasma interwoven with magnetic field. Its diameter is 1,392,684 kilometers, which is about 109 times that of the Earth's diameter. Now, the Sun makes up 99.86% of the entire solar system, which is of course a lot. I mean, the mass of the Sun is two times 1,030 kilograms. So no, sorry, that's 2 raised to power 1,030 kilograms. So that is really, really, really massive. I mean, that is 330 times that of the Earth's. So it accounts, as I said, it accounts for 99.86% of the total mass of the solar system. Now, 73% of the sun is of the chemical makeup of the sun is hydrogen. Another 24% of the sun is made up of helium, and then they have your smaller gases like neon, oxygen, carbon, iron, etc. I mean, the sun is, of course, we feel the heat of the feel the heat of the sun, even though we are we're actually quite far away from the sun. So the temperature of the sun is actually 5,505 degrees Celsius, which is really really hot. Obviously, the sun is actually white. So due to a phenomenon we know as atmospheric scatterings, when the light coming into Earth, is the ray of light coming into Earth faces refraction in the Earth's atmosphere because of water particles and gases in there. This changes the color we see of the sun to yellow. Now, the mean distance of the sun from the Earth is approximately 149.6 million kilometers, of course, which is a lot. The distance of the Earth from the Sun varies from January to July. So in January, when we have perihelion, and in July, when we have aphelion, the distance of the Earth to the Sun actually varies. Now, at the Sun's average distance, it takes light from the Sun 8 minutes 19 seconds to get to the Earth. Now, next thing we're going to discuss is the planets that make up the part of the solar system. Now, the most one thing to discuss here is, well, what is a planet, right? Because at the moment, the solar system has the sun and its 8 planets, but up until 2006, the solar system was made up of the sun and its 9 planets. So then, Pluto was was considered a planet, but in 2006 it was recategorized, so it's not a planet anymore. So this begs the question: what actually defines a planet? So here we have the 3 qualities that define a planet. So the planet is a celestial body that orbits the sun. It has to be massive enough that its own gravity causes it to form a spherical shape, right? And it has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. All right. So those are the 3 qualities that defines a planet. Now, the 8 planets that make up the solar system are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. We're going to discuss this planet one after the other, but here is just a brief caption of some of the qualities of these planets. Now, the planets are divided. The 8 planets are divided into 2 categories. Now, the first 4, which are the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are called the terrestrial planets because they're composed mostly of rock and metals, right? The four outer planets are called the gas giants because they're comprised mostly of gases and liquids, and they're actually bigger than the terrestrial planets. Now, two out of those two out of those gas planets, that's Uranus and Neptune, who are sometimes referred to as twins, uh, are called the ice giants. Now we're going to go through all these planets one after the other. So the first planet we're going to discuss here is Mercury. Mercury is the first planet from the sun. It's actually the smallest planet in the entire solar system. Now, as all the planets are named after um, Roman gods. All the planets and all the planets are given Roman names, mostly named after Roman gods. Now, the first planet, Mercury, is actually named after a Roman god. It it is a very hot planet. It's 100 Kelvin at night and 700 Kelvin in daytime. It is 38 million miles from the sun, but it has a very eccentric orbit, which means that the distance from the sun is actually varies a lot. In fact, sometimes the distance varies by about half the distance. So it varies by about half from the sun. So this 38 million miles is the average distance you get from the sun. Um, Mercury and Venus, which we're going to discuss later, can be seen as morning and evening stars in the sky and on Earth. Right now, it takes Mercury 88 days, which is the equivalent of taking the Earth 365 1/4 days. It takes Mercury 88 days to actually orbit the sun. Now, because of as I mentioned, at the distance of Mercury from the sun actually varies a lot. So this is at perihelion and at aphelion, the distance varies a lot, which means at Mercury's surface is more than twice the intensity at aphelion than it is at perihelion. So this variance in distance actually affects the seasons on Mercury. So Mercury has only one season entirely. It doesn't have different seasons like we get here on Earth, where one part of the Earth is having different. One hemisphere on the Earth is having experiencing different season, while another hemisphere is experiencing a different season. You don't get that on Mercury. Mercury all through the all through its year, he experiences just one season. Now, Venus is the second planet. Venus is the second planet from the Sun. It's named after the Roman goddess of love and beauty. Just like Mercury, Venus has no moons. So Venus travels the at a speed of 35 kilometers per second, and which it takes 224.7 days to orbit the Sun. 108 million kilometers is the distance of Venus from the Sun, and its diameter is 12,102 kilometers as well. Now, Venus is actually the hottest planet in the solar system. The temperature goes up to about 735 Kelvin. It's actually the hottest planet in the sun. I, um, Venus's atmosphere is dominated by CO2 with minor amounts of nitrogen, water, vapor, sulfuric acid, and sulfur dioxide. Now, we're now onto our own planet, Earth. Earth is the third planet from the sun. It orbits the sun at 365 1/4 days as 30 kilometers per second. Earth is actually 150 kilometers from the sun, or to be more specific, 149.6 kilometers from the sun. The diameter of Earth is actually 12,756 kilometers. Now, Earth is spherical, but not a perfect sphere. So it experiences what we call polar flattening. So polar flattening basically means the diameter the diameter at the center, so the diameter at the equator, is not the same diameter you get at the poles. So towards the pole, there's a flattening and the diameter reduces at the poles. So the diameter of on Earth reduces by 0.3% towards the poles. Most of the planets from Earth, so most of the planets from Earth all experience polar flattening to varying degrees. The Earth atmosphere is dominated by nitrogen, oxygen, and with traces of CO2, water vapor, and other gases. Only 30% of Earth is about 30% of Earth is actually land. So the remaining 70% of Earth is made up of water, and Earth's atmosphere ranges from minus 60 degrees Celsius to 90 degrees Celsius. Earth has only one moon, so unlike Venus and Mars, they are the only two planets that don't have any moon. Earth has one moon, as we all know, and it's the only planet known to support life. Now we'll go on to Mars. Mars is often referred to as the red planet, as you can see from the picture on the right hand side there. Mars is actually known as the red planet. It takes it 687 days to orbit the sun, traveling at 24 kilometers per second. The temperature on Mars ranges from minus 140 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius. Now, Mars also has 228 million, is also 228 million kilometers away from the sun. The diameter of Mars is 6,786 kilometers, making it half the size of the Earth. It has two moons known as Phobos and Deimos. Now, Mars also experiences polar flattening, but its degrees of polar flattening is 0.5%. Mars is dominated by CO2 with minor amounts of nitrogen, argon, and other gases. Now, Mars has features like mountains, desert, canyons, volcanoes, craters, and polar caps of frozen CO2. Some of the interesting features on Mars, and one of the most interesting, is Olympus Mons, which is the tallest mountain of any of the planets, well known, any of the known planets. It is 25 kilometers high and 600 kilometers across, and it is 3 times taller than Mount Everest. Right. Now we get on to Jupiter. Jupiter is one of the most interesting of all the planets. Jupiter is the fifth planet from the Sun and is the first of all the gas planets, as we know. It's traveling at a speed of 13 kilometers per second, and it takes 11.8 years to orbit the Sun. It also experienced polar flattening, but of course its own polar flattening is of a bigger degree, which is 6.7%. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, so it's 11.2 times Earth size, and is 11.2% Earth size. Massive. It is 778 million kilometers from the sun. Its diameter is 142,980 kilometers, where you have Earth's diameter was about just over 12,000, and obviously it takes 11.8 years to orbit the sun. Now, Jupiter, being one of the gas planets, has no real surface, so it's basically composed of hydrogen, helium, with traces of methane, ammonia, and water vapor. It's basically the first of the gas giant, as we mentioned. The gases give Jupiter a very colorful banded appearance, as you can see from the image on the right there. So what Jupiter has, the Great Red Spot, which is probably its most prominent feature. It is a very long anticyclonic storm reaching up to 40,000 kilometers across. So Jupiter can actually be seen from a telescope on Earth, with a telescope with something from about 12 with a 12 centimeter aperture and above. You could be able to see Jupiter at certain periods on Earth. Now, Jupiter has what is termed that faint planetary ring system. So it composed of three segments. Um, you have the inner, you have your three segments there, as you can see from the picture there. They consist mostly of fine-grained dust particles. Now, Jupiter has 67 known moons, including four large moons called the Galilean moons. These moons were discovered by Galileo himself, and Ganymede is which is larger than Mercury, is actually the largest moon in the entire solar system. So Ganymede, which is actually is the largest moon on Jupiter and is the largest moon in the entire solar system, and the rest are Io, Europa, and Callisto. These are four large moons and the most well known moons on Jupiter. Now we move on to another planet, Saturn. Saturn is the sixth planet from the Sun and the second of the giant gas planets. It travels at 10 kilometers per second, taking 29.46 years to orbit the Sun. Its distance from the Sun is 1,422 million kilometers, which is really, really a lot. The diameter is 122,540 kilometers. Now, obviously, the radius of the Jupiter's radius is 9 times that of the Earth. Now, like Jupiter, it has no real surface, and this is typical of all the gas planets. It has no real surface and is dominated by hydrogen and helium with traces of methane, ammonia, and water vapor. It also has the planetary ring system, but its planetary rings are more prominent. So it has 12 rings in total, nine main rings and three discontinuous arcs composed, and these rings are composed mostly of dust and ice particles. There are 62 known moons, 53 of which are named. Now, the largest moon orbiting Saturn is actually the second largest moon in the entire solar system. This the largest moon, of course, with the largest moon we mentioned, which was one of Jupiter's moon. Ganymede was is the largest moon, and it's actually larger than the planet Mercury. The second largest moon, called Titan, is actually larger than the planet Mercury as well. Now, Titan is the only moon in the solar system that actually has its own atmosphere. So Titan actually has its own atmosphere. Now, Saturn, yeah. So yeah. Now, the next one we're going to deal with is Uranus. Uranus is the seventh planet in the solar system and the third of the gas giants. It's also in the category of planets called the ice giants. So it's the first of the ice giants. The second is Neptune, which we're going to discuss later. Like Jupiter and Saturn, it has no real surface, and it consists of the similar material, hydrogen, helium, but it contains more of the ices, such of water, ammonia, methane, and traces of hydrocarbon. It contains more of that. This is what gives it the very bluish look that you can see in the picture on your right. It is 2,871 kilometers from the Sun. The diameter is 51,118 kilometers, and it takes 84.01 years to orbit the Sun, which is some people's lifetime. Uranus is the coldest, of all the planets, which its planetary atmosphere gets enough minus 224 degrees Celsius. It takes it travels at 7 kilometers per second and takes, obviously, as we mentioned, takes 84.01 years to orbit the Sun. Uranus is 4 times the size of Earth and also experiences polar flattening, as I mentioned, but to its degree is 2.3%, which is bigger polar flattening than the Earth. Uranus is actually a very unique planet, of which we are going to mention now. It's actually tilted. It's actually a tilted planet. Uranus is actually a tilted planet, so because its axis are tilted from north to south, tilted at 98 degrees Celsius. So Uranus is lying on the side. So if you see on this picture I have here, while if this was Earth, the poles, the north and south poles will be here and here. But in Uranus, the north and south poles are actually here and here. So the north and south poles are actually here. So while for most planets you have the equator running like this, for Uranus the equator actually run this way. All right, so if I get a different color, so Uranus runs this way and its poles are here. So it's actually a planet lying on its side, while the other planets, lie top to bottom. Uranus is lying on its side. Right. It has 27 known moons, and all of them are named after Shakespearean characters. The most popular ones are Miranda, Ariel, Umbriel, Titania, and Oberon. It also has a faint ring system as well, as we mentioned for Jupiter and Saturn, but its own faint ring is made up of extremely dark materials, actually the darkest materials you can find in the entire solar system. And finally, the final planet is Neptune. Neptune is the eighth and final planet in the solar system. Its its diameter is 49,528 kilometers, which makes it about 3.9 times the size of Earth. Its polar flattening also experiences polar flattening to a degree of 1.8%. It has no real surface, which is similar to all the other gas giant planets, and it also consists of hydrogen, helium, and methane. It is 4,497 kilometers from the sun, and it takes 164.80 years to orbit the sun, which is about two people's lifetime, right? It travels at a much slower pace than the other planets, which is 5 kilometers per second. It's very similar to Uranus, as I mentioned in the beginning. Uranus and Neptune are usually considered as twins, and it has a faint ring system as well, and it has 12 moons, and it obviously consists of the same material as I mentioned here. It consists of hydrogen, helium, and methane, and it's ice giant, and you can see it has this bluish banded color. Triton is its largest moon, and Triton is actually the coldest place in the solar system, with temperature of minus 235 degrees Celsius. Well, we're going to talk now about Pluto. Pluto was originally considered a planet when it was discovered in 1930, but it was later recategorized as a dwarf planet. So Pluto is not a planet, and it's not a planet in the solar system. That's all about the planet and the sun and its 8 planets. Thank you very much for watching this Ujuzi Africa lecture.